Black and white, up and down, Math 51 and happiness. There are a lot of opposites in them. But what do we do when we have to reconcile them and figure out how they interact? That's a question I've been dealing with for all of my life. I was born in Appleton, Wisconsin. My mother was white and my father was black. It's a pretty normal occurrence, but this is where it gets a little more interesting. Because those weren't the parents I grew up with. As many of you know, I was adopted, and my adoptive parents are both white. They were confronted by people of both races saying that they shouldn't have adopted a black child, but they never let it get to them, and they never gave in. They did everything in their power to help me integrate both sides of my identity. They bought me Kwanzaa books and took me to polka parties. They did all sorts of things. They educated themselves about Black history, and they taught me about Black history as well, all in an attempt to help make me a more complete person. They taught me a lot about what it means to reconcile such seemingly conflicting ideas in life, and they're a large part of the reason why I continued on that path as I went through life. Another thing they taught me was how to be curious, as reasonably curious as you could be. Most of the time I didn't follow that, and that's the reason why I have a lot of interesting hobbies, from photography to computer building to yo-yoing and origami and a dozen more obscure things. I've had a lot of interest throughout my life. And as a result, a lot of those had conflicting points in them, and none conflict more than my two biggest passions, music and space. Music physically can't exist in space. There's no air. There's nothing for it to transmit through. So why am I interested in them both? How do I reconcile that? How do you balance that? For a long time, I couldn't. So let's back up a little bit and look at how I got to where I am. A stolen library book and some trash from a closet. That's where this starts. In second grade, I checked out a book from the library on drawing airplanes, and I became obsessed with aviation and eventually spaceflight. For the longest time, I knew that I was going to be an aerospace engineer. Then, in fifth grade, instrument tryouts for fifth grade band came along. A few weeks before, my grandfather had gotten a trombone from one of his friends. It was taking up space in his closet, and he wanted it gone, so he gave it to me. And I ended up playing trombone partly because I wanted to, and partly because it was free. For years it was a side hobby, something I did, but not very seriously. High school changed that. In addition to giving me more outlets for science, it gave me a lot more outlets for music. And being the do-it-all that I was, I decided that I wanted to try all of it. I fell in love, and soon music was beginning to rival space as my main interest. Just as college applications were rearing their terrifying head, I was caught in limbo between STEM and the arts. And I was floating and clamoring for a foothold. Try as I might, I couldn't find a path through it. For the first time since second grade, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and that scared me. Eventually, however, my upbringing caught up with me, and I realized that there was a way that they could coexist. There was too much to be learned from mixing them together and truly enjoying them both to be forced to choose one. So I didn't, or more accurately, I couldn't. I do them both, I take the best of one and put it to work in the world of the other. And it's not easy, and it has its own challenges, but the reward is worth it. What is that reward, though? What's the point? Well, you could wrap it up with a nice bow and say, never give up on your dreams, or stay true to your goals. But I'm not the biggest fan of cliches, and I don't like that. I'd rather say that opposites don't always have a nice resolution, and that's exactly how it should be. Not everything needs to come to a nice, clean, perfect conclusion. Life is messier than that, and we've all experienced that. Sense of home, sexuality, ideologies, passions and hobbies, anything really. They're rarely divided into nice, clean sections with nice, clean answers. So rather than forcing ourselves to make do with solutions that are unsatisfying and don't work with how we want to live our lives, we need to accept a little bit of gray in this black and white world. Life is a little bit like music in that sense. After centuries avoiding dissonance and discord in music, composers' mentalities have changed, and they've finally begun to accept that in their music and realize that it makes it more interesting. Without it, music becomes just a series of boring chords played one after another with no sense of advancement or excitement. Looking at it from another perspective, it's a little bit like space. Without a bit of discord or a bit of disorder in life, everything would dissolve into a low-energy void with nothing happening. It's that disorder, that dissonance in the cosmic background noise, that fight against entropy that creates everything from galaxies and quasars to a sun-bleached flag on a tiny rock sitting or orbiting around another rock in an otherwise average solar system. Accepting opposites and allowing them to coexist and complement each other is a vital part of life. It's an umbrella against raining on parades, a warm hug when you're caught between worlds. It's a license to live the life you want, to be interesting and unique, no matter how contradictory your goals may seem. And in a world with as many contradictions as ours, sometimes that's exactly what you need. Thank you.